Get ready, Tobago. The People's House will reconvene for the 35th sitting of the 2021 to 2025 session of your Tobago House of Assembly. And this time, we're talking finance. Now, the central government allocated $2.6 billion to Tobago for the next fiscal year. This represents 4.3% of the government's total spend, a glaring deficit of 5.8%. requested by the Tobago House of Assembly to effectively meet the island's operational and developmental needs. Consequently, the executive, technical, and administrative heads of the THA underwent a budget reprioritization exercise to treat with the shortfall. The Finance Secretary, Petalan Roberts, will lay a motion seeking support for these measures. Thursday, November 28th, from 10 a.m., discussions will reignite. As usual, you can either tune in or come in. Either way, don't miss it.
Councillor Tasha Burris, you may continue. Additionally, you have 5 minutes of speaking time remaining.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer. And I guess saved by the bell today, boy. So, Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, fiscal 2024-2025 is poised to be an exciting year for the division, and I look forward to the support of yourself, the administrator, the staff, and the people of Tobago as we continue to play our part in making Tobago the greatest little island on the planet. And while I would like to focus on all the good news, it is my duty to highlight one critical ongoing challenge. And that challenge that we face is in securing consistent and affordable airlift to Tobago. And despite our best efforts, and the Chief Secretary went at great lengths to explain that we have been talking to CAL. Since this administration came into office, we've been talking to CAL. We have said that we are willing to pay for the airport to stay open later. We have offered on several occasions to pay for flights. CAL not on we. And the minority will never speak to their colleagues in Trinidad. But they want to go on Facebook and say, oh, we spoke to them and the white boots man, and we're getting extra flights for Carnival, are still waiting for the flights. But despite our best efforts, inadequate funding limits our ability to negotiate with airlines and subsidize critical routes. We have yet to be invited to tour the airport. This administration, nobody from this administration has received an official invitation to take a look, a peep, a smell, to step a foot in this airport that will be gift wrapped for the people of Tobago as a shiny election gift. But in the words of the late great Princess Margaret from Trinidad, when she tell Kamla put the highway somewhere, the airport could go there too. Because what good is a new airport if we do not have the financial resources to entice airlines to fly? You are putting $1 billion into a plant that you have no guarantee will get the numbers that will have that airport operating optimally. The Minister of Finance says that the airport is being built to accommodate 3 million passengers per year. And as my colleague, member for Buku, Mount Pleasant indicated, that means that the airport has to see 8,219 persons per day. But with CAL only giving us 8 flights or 10 flights, where the thousands of people coming from? Make the maths make sense. A stronger allocation will enable us to pursue these solutions aggressively, ensuring that Tobago remains accessible to international, regional, and domestic travelers alike. And don't tell me anything about CAL. CAL playing Dora the Explorer every Monday morning. CAL is announcing a new route. Nothing for Tobago. Nothing for the people of Tobago. The people of Tobago continue to suffer because of CAL, and you will not ever tell your handlers in Trinidad, well, oh gosh, fix the CAL situation for we now. No. PNM hypocrisy and PNM wickedness. As we consider this motion, let us not forget the wider economic impact of investing in tourism, culture, antiquities, and transportation. These sectors have the potential to create jobs, stimulate small and medium-sized enterprises, and generate revenue for reinvestment in our communities. The ripple effects of such investment will touch every Tobagonian everywhere, improving the quality of life and fostering a sense of pride in our island. Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, this motion is not merely about dollars and cents. It is about justice and fairness for the people of Tobago. It is about ensuring that Tobago has the resources to build a future that reflects its true potential. It's about recognizing that our island, though small, has a significant role to play in the prosperity of this nation. This administration deserves a fair chance to show the people of Tobago what we can truly do. But I understand if you're on the other side, I understand because of so much that we've been able to deliver in the past 3 years, they truly fear what we can do if we were to receive what we asked for. This allocation is a stark reminder of the inequities that persist in our governance structures. This motion calls upon the national government to correct this imbalance and to honor the commitments enshrined in Act 40 of 1996. It calls for partnership between Trinidad and Tobago, one based on mutual respect for the aspirations of the people of Tobago alongside the aspirations of the people of Trinidad, and recognition of each other's contributions. We are stronger together, you like to say that. But if we are stronger together, why is Tobago being treated the way that it is being treated? Deputy Presiding Officer, I want the people of Tobago to understand what we bring to this union. Block 22A, Block 22B, Calypso, among others. That's what they want. So don't be fooled by the 6.8% being dangled in front of your eyes, because if they wanted to give it to us, they have the power to do that today. Let them tell us what the revenues from these blocks are that lie in Tobago's sovereign waters. Let them tell us how much they intend to collect over the life of these blocks. And if they may man, let them meet us outside and tell us the truth. They will never say that.
Your speaking time has expired.
Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, I beg to move that the member's speaking time be extended by an additional 10 minutes.
Members, the question is that 10 minutes of additional speaking time be given to this member. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any against? The ayes have it. Member, you have 10 minutes of additional speaking time. You may continue your presentation.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. I only need one. And I would repeat, and I'm saying it in big. If they name man, let them meet us outside and tell the people of Tobago the truth. They abuse us and they want to hold on to us because of what we bring to this union. They want to fool us and tell us that we only collect 200 million in taxes in Tobago, but they will never tell us how much revenues they collect from the oil and gas that lies in our waters that belong to the people of Tobago and the generations who are yet to come. And we stand in this house making decisions on behalf of those that are not yet born. And we cannot give away their patrimony. We will never be forgiven for that. And I want Tobagonians to understand that the day that we begin to live is the day that we understand that the people of Trinidad cannot give us self-government or self-determination. We simply have to take it ourselves. Deputy Presiding Officer, I thank you.
Member for Moria Mason Hall, you may now join the debate.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. And I want to thank the people of St. Cecilia, Mason Hall, Highland Road, Mariah, and Devines Road for giving me this privilege to serve in this honorable house. I'd also like to thank the Honorable Chief Secretary and the new Finance Secretary for this reprioritization of our budgetary allocation. A special thanks to my family who supports me. A happy belated birthday to my wife, who is now celebrating Thanksgiving in the United States. And you have to. And it's fitting that on her birthday 5 days ago was 37 years I did my heart surgery, replacing my heart valve. So I thank God for being on this side, in the land of the living. But while sitting here today, I'm looking at the pictures on the walls. And as my colleague, Secretary James, said, he wished to get to Secretary Baines, member for Bethel New Grange, 62. Then it dawned on me, I've been in this struggle for Tobago self-determination 48 years. At the meager age of 10 years old, 1976. And I knew the history, and I hope that my colleagues on the other side, I know some of them probably born late 80s, some of them in the 90s, but they don't understand the struggle of where we have come from as a people. You see, this hallowed chamber that we sit and serve, the PNM never wanted this for Tobago. They were opposition to this from 1976. They preferred that we had a glorified county council than have representatives serving the people of Tobago. So when you hear, you have to be very mindful of who is going around banding and talking about they are busting, they are saviors of this and want to save Tobago. You can't save something that you never wanted. It reminds me of some of the fathers who children, impregnate women, leave them, and as soon as their children get some kind of big contract in the NBA or NFL, they show up. The daddy's just back on the scene. They never wanted Tobago to have this chamber. You see, the PNM have failed Tobago and the people of Trinidad and Tobago for 47 years they have been in office, of 62 years since we have independence. You see, I am looking at Guyana, newfound oil and gas reserves, and what the Guyana president is doing for his people. In 1982, I was 16 years old. We had a oil find in Trinidad and Tobago. I remember it quite well because my brother started to learn trade. I was being paid $150 a day. When we found oil, you know what the PNM government did in Trinidad? Some of you all may be too young to know this. They went, instead of developing Tobago, they went and built stables for horses, air-conditioned stables. Air-conditioned stables for horses in Trinidad. And they were never completed. And Tobago left underdeveloped in 1982. This bill that they are taking to the parliament is a facade to the people of Tobago and by extension Trinidad. This is just for a talking point to say that the UNC did not support Tobago getting internal self-government and the TPP, and they are stopping it from getting 6.8% of the budgetary allocation. But what is 6.8% of the budgetary allocation? From 1980 to 2001, Tobago was getting 2% or less of the national budget. 20 years. 2001 to 2024, 4.03. 2024 onwards, you want to give us 6.3, so what? You're only moving us by increments of 2%? That is what we deserve? And we always have to bend ourselves into pretzels to how to maximize and deliver the people of Tobago. It's the same thing the Honorable Hotchery Charles, the first Chief Secretary, did with Adan Bang, and everybody think was a fet. He was investing to make money for people of Tobago, because those times we used to get $300 million as our budgetary allocation. You have a document stating here that we fought for after the Black Power movement in 1970, giving us a high of 6.9%. And you're telling me we have to take what you're looking to offer to give us 6.8%? What I want the people, my colleagues on the opposite side to sit back and give a good thought to. 20 years or 30 years, you all are young. I'm a grandfather already. You all are young. You all have young children. What future will you be leaving for your grandchildren if you have 6.8 of a budgetary allocation of a dwindling resources of oil and gas? It's not about now. All of us on the way out. What about your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren that is coming behind? And Trinidad is enjoying 94%, will be enjoying 94% of the budgetary allocation. Let that sink in. It's not about you anymore. In the eyes of today's world, we are all old people. But I, like my colleague from Bagatelle Bacalet, if I could only sing, my song would have been by Mark Myrie, a.k.a. Buju Banton, I want to rule my own destiny. I want to rule my destiny. You see, when I look at those 4 pictures on the wall, the first 4, I saw persons who wanted to transform Tobago from the status quo where we were. My former vice principal, Somerville, London, just came and just handed back all we fought for 20 years. You see, the first time, you see this, I could speak like this. I couldn't wait to vote in 1984, 86. The first or second chief secretary of Tobago, the first time he took part in the democratic process is when he was a candidate himself. So when I was a young boy fighting for Tobago at 10 years old, he had no dealing with the democratic process or advancing Tobago's cause. Never fought for Tobago. As a student at Signal Hill, the sitting prime minister even sent police to lock me up. Mr. Robinson and Pamela Nicholson had to disguise me and get me out of Tobago. All standing up and fighting for Tobago. They spew their lies, but
the matter of Tobago's autonomy was resolved?
Yes, we had the motion last, and that, so, and if you check Standing Order 45.3, just for the edification of the rest of the members, it says that it shall be out of order to attempt to revive in any debate a matter or reconsider any specific question upon which the Assembly has come to a conclusion during the current session.
Mr. Member for Darrell Springwood, the autonomy issue has not been resolved. There was a debate in this House. Is it to say that nothing that was ever spoken about in this House could be spoken about again? No. Am I understanding that is what you're saying?
No.
Members.
Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, the matter in front of us at this time is reprioritization and not autonomy. And therefore, the matter of autonomy was dealt with extensively at the last sitting.
And so has many things, member for Darrell Springwood. So has members that I have seen you speak about currently about the member for Secretary James and so forth. I hold that that does not interfere with anything. Member, please continue your presentation.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. You see, as my colleague, Councillor Burris just stated, this whole facade that they are running around the islands like chickens with their head cut off, trying to tell Tobagonians about 6.8%. That is not the real thing. The real thing that Tobago and Tobagonians have to study is the $171 trillion worth of revenue we have out in our waters. because that is the total calculation of all the oil and gas fields in our waters. $171 trillion worth. We have Grenada next door, finding oil and gas. Guyana south of us. But Tobago, as Secretary Craig, as the representative of Bukuan, Mount Pleasant said, or that anything north of Trinidad, it's not Tobago. Anything is Lambo, sorry. Anything north it belongs to Trinidad. How could that be? How could that be? Right now they are building piping gas away from one field to the next. You go in Bay Hill in Mariah, that Secretary James and the infrastructure developer, and you could see them on night time taking out our patrimony. But yet we have these, my colleagues on the other side, having to sing the song from the hymn book from the handlers about taking 6.8%. 6.8% of what? Mr. Deputy Presiding Officer, I have coined a new phrase that the PNM and my colleagues want Tobagonians to become. We must become begonomists. Graduating from university, I graduated with a degree in accounting, economics, and finance. But they want to make us begonomists. That's the new term. So everything that we want to develop our island, we have to go down to Trinidad and beg. Yes. We must go down to Trinidad and beg for everything that we want to develop our island. And the resources is coming from our waters. You see, what they use against us is in the creation of this document. It speaks about tax collection, revenue collection. And as Secretary Burris says, we collect over between $185 to $210 million. It speaks nothing about the territorial waters of Tobago, because the PNM, the same Mr. Orville London and they, in 1996, made this document a watered-down version to what the original document had left this chamber to go to Trinidad. So that is how Tobago was never defined by Speak Space. It only speaks. So every time you hear the Prime Minister talking about we only bring 200 million to the table, because it's what they're going by, what is documented in here. What about the air and sea space, the revenue that could be collected for Tobagonians? But we must go and beg. But never mind, this is a man who said that Studley Park only had rotten rock, as a geologist, As my colleague once said, because I think that we were probably looking out of the same text in our presentation. But we are in an abusive relationship. We are in an abusive relationship with Trinidad. And as one of my colleagues said, it's collective responsibility. But it's high time there's some kind of arrangement, a change in the arrangement between Trinidad and Tobago. It is high time. We cannot go along the way with this arrangement. It is not working for us. If you're in an unhealthy relationship, it is always best to walk away or go or just move on. We cannot take this abuse anymore. I remember when the Ministry of Tobago was removed out of Tobago in 1977, My first year in Scarborough Sec, I couldn't even ask my father for $1. In those days, $1 could have buy you a Domino biscuit and a sweet drinks. But my father had to take the money out of his pocket because he was a road supervisor and assist those women who wasn't getting paid for 6 and 7 fortnights. That is the PNM love that you all want to let us hold on to. That is the love that we must hold on to. They have even moved the EU grant for the link road, as my colleague said before, to build Bayanara Promenade, the COVID grant, money from Hurricane Beryl. What more? If that is PNM love, well, we ain't water love at all on this side. And Tobago do water love it. Tobago got damaged by Hurricane Beryl, but we can't get the insurance money to help the people here in Tobago. Yeah. And you know what is bemoaning? It is the first time in the history, and it's not the first time I'm saying it here. We have 8 Tobagonians, 8 from the Prime Minister come back down to senators serving in the upper and lower house in Trinidad. First time in the history. and you want to give us $205 million for development. I, as Secretary for Housing, they gave me $2 million this year for housing. You know how much they gave the minister in Trinidad? $192 million for housing. And that doesn't include land settlement agency, who has another allocation. Last year, they got $687 million for housing. I want that to sink into Tobagonians. $2 million they gave me for housing in Tobago. They gave me $4 million for grants program. And we have so much persons that are applying for these grants program. There's no money to develop. And I thank the Secretary for Finance and the Chief Secretary and the team for this reprioritization. Now that we could get some money to do whatever is needed in the division, we are hoping to get the housing off the ground in this PPP arrangement in order to alleviate some of the costs of Tobagonians. I wish we could have more money that we could pay for the infrastructure costs, so that will take the value or the cost that the citizens we have to pay. Because those townhouse units in Plymouth, they were constructed at a cost of $1,250,000. You know how much they pay them, subsidize it by? They took off $800,000 off those houses. But because the limited funding I have, we can't do no subsidizing for Tobagonians. There's no subsidy that we could put in. So I'm hoping that we could get some money from the Secretary for Finance to take away some of the infrastructure costs so that the cost of the unit could reduce for Tobagonians. This is how we have to think outside the box. So this was a much-needed initiative for Tobagonians and for young Tobagonians. You see, Mr. Robinson once said, if we as Tobagonians don't take control of our island, we will be beggars, we will become hewers of wood and drawers of water. In other words, we'll become servants in our own land. The Chief Secretary spoke about taking losers and making them senators. Mr. Robinson spoke about it, yes. Streams flow into rivers and rivers flow into seas. When Mr. Pandey tried to appoint 10 or 11 losers into the Senate, give them senatorial position, and we have it replaying now, and they're going around talking about they would love Tobago. Ask your colleagues in Trinidad. Ask your colleagues in Trinidad if the only one person in Tobago spoke about the budgetary allocation for Tobago is, what's her name? Maria Dillon. Not one of y'all, not the representative for Tobago, East or West, running up here and infracting on the duties and responsibility of the THA. I was part of the PP government. I was the advisor to a minister. And I remember when we came to talk to Mr. London about Tobago Carnival, he told the Minister Peters that Minister Toppin cannot come up to his office. She has to stay down in the motor car. And today, the Carnival, thank God for this dispensation, the biggest event on this island is the Tobago Carnival. So we could have been recognizing this revenue or this go-to revenue since 2012. Since 2012. But refused. But what do you expect for somebody who never wanted something? If you never wanted something, you could fertilize it, you could make it grow. You have that vision. Madam Deputy Presiding Officer, I would say I would now go to the reprioritization in our division. And I thank the Secretary for Finance for allocating another $13.7 million to the division to assist in major projects. You see, I hear the minority leader speaking today about housing development. But because of this exercise, the same core land that you have lands from the THA, with this reprioritization, I could now complete the wastewater treatment and the lift station so that all the recipients, the 121 persons, could now construct their homes at core land. Also, that pungent smell that comes out from Adventia because of a contractor under the former regime dumping sea sand into the sewer system to clog it up, to be called out for emergency works, millions of dollars. I thank the Secretary for Finance for giving me another $4 million so that system could be flushed and we could recalibrate all the wastewater treatment plants and the lift station so that that pungent smell will not be emanating out of Plymouth. So the presiding officer, the member for Plymouth Golden Lane, you will not get that complaint. Better as a liquor too. That pungent smell will soon be no longer causing a problem. So you see, these are the things that this reprioritization have brought to the people of Tobago and under the Division of Settlements. You see, there's no development in Tobago that has completion certificates. So bringing these plans up to date, up to speed, so WASA could take them over, could save us over $7 million that we pay to maintain them on a yearly basis. So, Madam Secretary for Finance, I applaud you on this initiative, and I know that the people of Tobago will be really grateful for that input that we're going to do to make their lives much better. You see, under the division also, for years, all we're getting for electrification, street lighting, 500,000. Bus shed, 500,000. Because of this program now, started by you, Deputy Presiding Officer, now under Secretary Kerr, we have seen it taken off. We are getting called from private sector, all left, right, and center to partner in the Adopt Bus Shed program. This is the initiative that we are employing in order to make up for the shortfall in funding. We're glad that we could get some more money to do more street lighting. That street lighting project that took place from Delaford to Charlottesville costed us over $900,000. What about the stretch from Mount Dillon Hill to Castara, where most tourists flock in Tobago? We have electricity running, but there's no street lights. So these are projects that we have to undertake. The rest stops. We are working in partnership with Habitat for Humanity in putting 4 rest stops throughout the island of Tobago. Because when you head from the north side, after you leave that rest stop in Devines Road, the foreigners have to either go to someone's private home or use the bush. We are touting tourism. These are plans that we should have met in place before coming into office in 2022. Nothing was put in place, and we were boasting about clean, green, and safe and serene. So, Deputy Presiding Officer, like I said, I would not be long. I am elated of this reprioritization, and I'm hoping that I could have my private one-on-one to see if I could beg the Secretary of Finance for a little bit more money. The long and short of it, that is it of me getting the funding that is necessary to ease the lives of Tobagonians. And I know, I'd say, with this team, as Secretary Clark said, I am 100% committed in bringing much relief to Tobago and Tobagonians. And if we get the funding that we truly deserve, we will change the landscape of this beautiful island called Tobago, which would eventually become the greatest little island on this planet. I thank you.
Councillor Petalon Roberts, you may now join the debate.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. Deputy Presiding Officer, just allow me to get the podium. Thanks. Deputy Presiding Officer, allow me to close the debate with just 2 very important points. And also allow me to speak. I know you are the man of this house, you are the one in charge of the house. But I think I want to speak to the people of Tobago, to let them understand, firstly, my position in taking up this appointment as Secretary of Finance, Trade and the Economy. I believe that for a time such as this, God saw it fit to place me here as a vessel, to be used by God to preside over the finances of Tobago and to drive Tobago economy. And with the words that I started with in terms of professionalism, accountability, honesty, and transparency. And also, secondly, I saw this as a position of servanthood and sacrifice. But I want the people of Tobago to understand what I have been faced with I've been faced with firsthand a situation of evil, a situation where I saw wickedness being played out firsthand, Deputy Presiding Officer, dealing with the central government and trying to get things that are justly due for Tobago. I just want to give a few examples. One of the first meetings I did try to set up when I came into office was a meeting with the Minister of Finance on behalf of the people of Tobago to get what is justly due to Tobago. And it was one of the most recent things that happened, and it was the oil spill, where Tobago was faced with an unfortunate situation which was unplanned and unforeseen, and we really didn't have any monies for that. The allocation to the Tobago House of Assembly was $2 million at the time for expenditure such as this. And we called on the Minister of Finance, we called on the central government to give us the finances to deal with this catastrophic event. I, as Chief Management Accountant, I worked with a team trying to determine what's the projected expenditure for this, because you know it's very difficult, but we lean on international experts to tell us what are some of the expenditures you should expect, because we've never had a situation like this. And in the end, we came up with $153 million. And of that, close to $100 million was for the cleanup efforts in Tobago. The actual expenditure at the time, up to today, is close to $70 million. And we have received only $50 million. And just as I'm telling you here today, Tobago, I told the same thing to the Minister of Finance. This is our situation. We were made aware that international bodies gave grant funding to Tobago for the oil spill. And the minister said to me, "You're not getting that. That's part of the $50 million. And I found that to be very unfair. Then we had the Hurricane Beryl that affected east of Tobago in such a significant manner. We were not ready for that. As I said, the allocation was only $2 million, which takes care of any disaster that happens in Tobago. We had utilized some of the funding because there were things that happened in Tobago prior to the oil spill, prior to Beryl. Tobago, I want you to know that there's an insurance that is being paid for Trinidad and Tobago for events such as these, upon which we can lean if we need to restore Tobago to the position it was before Beryl. You know what the minister told me? For about the $2.5 million owed to Tobago for Beryl, all ain't getting that. You just pay any premium. I find that to be real wicked, and I want Tobagonians to understand the kind of disadvantaged position that we are in here. And we are trying our best as an administration.
Again, 45-8, and this secretary continues to come in here and speak to conversations that the minister cannot defend himself, and 45-8 is clear, and she continues to do it over and over again.
Member for Darrell Springwood, this is a budgetary prioritization exercise, debate, right? Motion. And I'm saying to you that that affects the budgetary allocation for the island of Tobago. Continue, please, Councillor.
Thank you so much, Deputy Presiding Officer, and I wish to get my time back. That was just wasted. Thank you. Let's get away from the financial thing. So those are just two simple sets of monies that are owed to Tobago. In my first contribution, I spoke about the $176 million that is owed because of the shortfalls in allocation that we have been experiencing over years. But let me just talk about a simple matter that, interestingly, Dr. Faith and I spoke about yesterday, and it's about a non-objection letter. The Tobago House of Assembly, well, let me tell you about me as Secretary of Finance. We are trying to advance a Tobago Development Fund for Tobago. And in that, the Inter-American Development Bank, the IDB, is saying to us, we can assist you with technical assistance to set up this fund. All you need is a non-objection letter from the Ministry of Planning. We have been trying painfully to get just a letter to say, go ahead, and they're refusing to give Tobago for the establishment of a fund that will advance Tobago's socio-economic development needs. This is what we face. And I want to tell Tobago the kind of unfair games that are being played out now, which I know will end very soon, because God don't sleep, and he don't like ugly. And there is so much more that I want to tell Tobago that is happening with this administration. And this is not doing me anything, it's the people of Tobago that are suffering under the hands of the People's National Movement.
Member, please allow the councillor to finish the presentation. Member? 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 I know you are exuberant, but please turn down the volume and please stay away from the crosstalk. Please. Councillor, continue with your presentation.
Thank you very much, Deputy Presiding Officer. So I believe that God has placed me as protection from squandering, frittering away funds, corruption, and today I know the experience firsthand, misleading the people of Tobago and telling them that I presided over a contract awarded to a contractor for over $180 million. That is misleading, that is not the truth, and I want to deal with that today. And I want to tell the people of Tobago that the gentleman on the opposite side, all he does is mislead Tobago with a lot of lies, half-truth, innuendos.
Councillor?
Please have a withdraw that statement.
I'm not sure what. Well, I can tell her the unparliamentary language, please.
My apologies, and I withdraw the lies. Can I say untruth? Because that is what it is. I heard this morning in the contribution for the member for, I don't know how you become a member, for Darrell Spring Whim. Well, God placed me here. You will see.
Councillor, seated. Members, and I know we have been here for a long time. Some of us may be tired, and some of us may be lapsing in concentration. This goes to everybody. Let us have some behavior and finish the motion, please. Please. Councillor, continue.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. So this morning I heard the contribution from the member on the opposite side saying that he used a term of washing, we should be washing money in the hands of the people of Tobago, particularly those in the tourism sector. You know what I did? I went to Google and I Googled, because I know what wash money is. Wash money is money laundering. And I want to tell the people of Tobago what is washing money.
Officer, Mr. Deputy, I made no statement about washing. I did not use that word. So,
Member for Darrell Spring Whim, I sat right here and heard you say that we should have been washing Tobagonians with money. I sat in this seat, and you can check it on my Hansard if you so wish, but you did use that statement, sir.
is the House prepared to give an apology answer? It does not put it in that way as it's being put.
I, Deputy Presiding Officer, is more than willing to do that because I'm absolutely positive that I sat on this seat and heard you say that.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And member for Darrell Spring Whim, you are interrupting the councillor on too many occasions. Please, you were allowed to make your contribution. Please allow the councillor to make her contribution, please.
The standing orders provide for interruptions if there's for clarification, and I did stand on
It
a point
also
of
provides
order.
that the presenter gave way. And I'm saying, please allow her to finish her contribution.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer, and I would like to continue by giving a definition of washing money. The definition of washing money is a term used for an illegal process of making money from criminal activity that appears to be legitimate. This member is encouraging this administration to take part in illegal activities because that is what he knows.
Improper motive on me, and I'm not going to accept that.
Said.
Please. That is imputing improper motive.
Member for Darrell
I
Spring
never
Road.
said I never said anything about washing money.
Member, please be seated and allow the councillor to finish the presentation. I already told you that if you go to Hansard and you did not use those words, what will take place? But I'm absolutely positive you did, and on such ground, I am going to allow the councillor to finish her presentation.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. I just want to lay on record that this administration would not be washing any money or doing any illegal activities, especially close to an election season. I just want to also raise an issue of the availability of foreign currency or foreign exchange that this country faces today, especially those in the tourism industry. And because I don't want to be interrupted and everybody is here and heard what he proposed to this administration on this side, and you know what I want to say? You know, we have an accountant, another accountant in this space. My dear friend on my right here is an accountant, but there's an accountant on the other side, and before I find that there should have been some nudging to say, no, stand down, because what you're saying there is not the truth in terms of the foreign exchange situation. Because I remember reading an article where a gentleman from the central bank was saying we should not be trading any foreign currency with your tanti and then friend because it's regulated by the central bank. But in Trinidad and Tobago, the forex management and regulation are primarily overseen by the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, which plays a central role in ensuring stability of the foreign exchange market. The central bank imposes limits on how much foreign currency can be allocated for specific uses. Know where to pick your fight down the road, not to us on this side. And I want to also ask if the minority leader, the member for Darrell Spring Wim, if he's asking this administration to carry out illegal practice of buying and selling US from tour operators. And I'm actually wondering if I should waste my time on any more rants that were made. But I want to do one more about Trinidad contractors in this space. And this one will be very short. There was a contractor, now turned minister, who enriched himself with many, many, many contracts under the previous administration. I want Tobagonians to do some investigation, go up in Castara by the fishing facility and ask who built it and ask if the person from Tobago. I'll leave that right there. If I hear the answer, I'll whistle. And finally, I would like to take this opportunity, Deputy Presiding Officer, to refute, discredit, debunk, rebut the misleading narrative and comments being spread here in this honorable House by the member on the other side of that I presided over a contract. I know the Chief Secretary would have dealt with that, the member for Palatine Lands for me, space, I dealt with it already. But because my name and fingers were pointed at me as being part of an evaluation committee that awarded a contract or something to the extent of over $180 million, I want to put on record that that tender process included a PPP arrangement for a housing development, and that the THA was only going to give the lands for that and also the applicants at the end of that arrangement. I would like to place the truth on record that the THA has not and will not spend 180 million on that project under a PPP arrangement, and the private partner provides all the capital needed to fund the project, and in return, the private investor recoups his investment through the sale of these housing units. Let me end and bring the curtains down on this motion. And I wish to thank all the members on this side for their meaningful contribution. And for those who have not gotten a script from principals somewhere outside of Tobago to come and read here, but for those who would have, Deputy Presiding Officer, I'm being interrupted, please.
Member for Darrell Springwood, I have spoken to you on many occasions, and I will not be speaking to you again. Councillor.
For a script that was written, edited, and sent to Tobago from Trinidad. This is my handwriting, huh? Yeah, it's me writing. It's me writing the script. I wish to give Tobagonians the assurance that notwithstanding all that I've said here, all the disadvantages and the fiscal constraints that we are facing, this administration remains steadfast in our commitment to develop Tobago into the greatest little island on the planet. As a relatively young mother, I think that it's an urgent duty to move Tobago to a better place than we met it. Our children must not be saddled with political battles or four parents fought, and that we are fighting now. Deputy Presiding Officer, in this regard, Tobago self-governance is fundamental to us. The issue is at the foundation of all financial, economical, legal, and political challenges confronting the THA and Tobagonians. It is our hope that the central government will remedy the numerous defects in the two self-government bills and stop playing politics with Tobago's development. For instance, Deputy Presiding Officer, there is nothing currently preventing the central government from allocating to the THA the 5.8% we requested or even more. It is important that all of us be reminded that both the current PNM administration and the opposition UNC prepared and laid constitutional amendment bills in the National Parliament proposing a minimum share of 8% and 6.9% of the national budget for Tobago. Respectfully, the internal self-government bills currently before the Parliament prescribe that a minimum share of 6.8% of the national budget must be allocated to Tobago, the THA. Deputy Presiding Officer, it is interesting, they all propose significantly higher share, than the 4.03% which the present central government, 4.3%, that the present central government deceitfully continues to allocate to Tobago today. If this central government is serious about the bills, which the Prime Minister indicated would be up for debate in Parliament, they should demonstrate good faith and grant the THA the 5.8% requested as opposed to 4.3% they're giving now. This is what their Tobago agents and operatives should be selling Tobagonians and calling on their imperialist principles in Port of Spain to honor. Anything short of this is unacceptable and disappointing, and Tobagonians, you must reject them. Let me close by thanking again the Honorable Chief Secretary for his leadership, his support, and most importantly for affording me the opportunities to perform public service at this level. And also my colleagues and the members on this side, I want to thank you for the support of this motion as well. Deputy Presiding Officer, the journey so far has been very interesting and insightful. I also want to thank the team at the Division of Finance for their support as well. I eagerly anticipate the future with optimism and hope as we continue our steadfast mission to make Tobago the greatest little island on the planet. I thank you.
Honorable members, the question put is, whereas the Tobago House of Assembly met its legal obligation in accordance with Section 41 of the Tobago House of Assembly Act 40 of 1996 of approving and submitting draft estimates of revenue and expenditure for fiscal 2025 to the Cabinet before June 30th, 2024. And whereas the allocation of the Tobago House of Assembly emanating from the national budget is 2.608 billion, or 66% of the request of the THA for fiscal 2025, thereby significantly restricting the fiscal space of the THA. And whereas central government disappointingly continues to allocate approximately 4.3% of the national budget to the THA, which is at the lower end of the DRC recommendation of between 4.03 to 6.9%, and which is exceptionally insufficient to fund the proposed programs, projects, and activities of the THA for fiscal 2025, and which were designed to stimulate Tobago's socio-economic transformation. And whereas the island's socio-economic development is even further hampered by the continuing practice of the Ministry of Finance to unilaterally withhold funds allocated to the THA by Parliament, and often sending funds outside the arrangement as prescribed in Act 40 of 1996. And whereas this House in September unanimously approved a motion by the Honorable Chief Secretary for the Minister of Finance to allocate to the THA no less than 5.8% of the national budget to meet Tobago's urgent development priorities and address historical underfunding of the THA. And whereas the executive, technical, and administrative heads of the Tobago House of Assembly consequently met and engaged in a robust budget reprioritization exercises, be it resolved that this House accepts the policy measures and associated programs and projects emanating from the budget reprioritization exercises which are engineered to advance the socio-economic development of Tobago, notwithstanding prevailing fiscal constraints facing the THA in fiscal 2025, and be it further resolved that this House calls on the Minister of Finance to allocate funds to the THA in keeping with approved parliamentary appropriations and consistent with the prescriptions of the THA Act 40 of 1996. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any against? The ayes have it. Motion is carried. Leader of Assembly Business.
Deputy Presiding Officer, I now beg to move that this House stands adjourned to a date to be fixed.
Members, the question is that the House now stands adjourned to a date to be fixed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any against? The ayes have it. This House now stands adjourned to a date to be fixed.
You often would hear stories of young persons fresh out of university, and the first thing they would look to do is to purchase a car. And when you compare that to the investment of buying a home, is usually later in life, where having a mortgage could be seriously challenging. So what we aim to do this year is to create a change and have young people explore the possibilities of housing at a much younger age. And we also want them to do it in accordance with the UN Sustainable Development Goals and have persons build houses that would last a lifetime, make better investments among the young people. So it's simply having them get the information, getting involved with the data, and we have seen some drastic numbers as it pertains to housing on the island. We have an average of about 21 to 22 persons participating this year, a nice mix between boys and girls as well. We have about 8,000 housing applicants on the island of Tobago. And if we are to simply just give them a lot, we would not have the land space to accommodate that on the island. So we need them to explore the different types of cultures as it pertains to housing. So not just build across, but we need to explore vertical options. So we want them to see the different options and get a whole new perspective on housing and don't just see it as we live somewhere so we're comfortable. Can you live in a vehicle? So why is it so challenging to acquire loans and fundings to build houses? But in a day, you can get a car loan. So I think we want the banking institutions and places that provide funding for things like these to make it a little simpler, a little easier for us and allow us to make good, prudent financial decisions. Because do you know that for every $1 million invested in one house, it generates $2 million in the economy? It's simple maths. The pleasure is mine to invite you to join us on the 5th of December at 10 a.m. right here for what is going to be an exciting debate. I mean, it's a matter that affects each and every one of us because we live somewhere. So come in, get the information. Tobago, you don't want to miss this.
Hey Assemblers, I'm Alan Cipriani, your presiding officer for this year's Tobago Day Youth Debate on Thursday, December 5th, 2024 at the Assembly Chamber at 1:30 p.m. Assemblers, did you know that an average of 1% of Tobagonians can afford housing without financial assistance? Come in or tune in live to our Facebook and YouTube pages on Thursday, December 5th at 1:30 p.m. as 9 secondary schools tackle the critical issue of housing on the island. Tobagonians, we've got you covered. Don't miss it.